Hello again. Last time I explained to you how Palestine in 1949 was divided between Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. Egypt at that time was under King Farouk, a British agent. There was a movement in the Middle East and North Africa to get rid of colonial powers from our midst, i.e. Britain in the Middle East and France in North Africa. In 1952, a group of officers in the Egyptian army, known as the Free Officers, managed a successful bloodless coup d'etat against King Farouk. They got rid of him, they sent him to exile, and they started a new free Egyptian government. A year later, Gamal Abdel Nasser, known as Nasser, became the president of Egypt. And he was the father of pan-Arabism. Any Arabic power is a threat to Israel. And they started to conspire to get rid of this new emerging Arab power and to put an end to pan-Arabism. Because if the Arabs are united, Israel will not last for too long. Their conspiracy to get rid of Nasser first and the new revolution in Egypt took them to France and Britain, and they conspired to destroy this new emerging Arab free country. They were waiting for an opportunity. That opportunity came when Nasser, in July of 1956, naturalized the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal is an Egyptian asset. It lies in Egypt, not in Britain or France or Palestine. But a reason for the war has to be given, and that was the catalyst that the three powers used. They attacked Egypt 3 months later, in October of 1956, which is known as the Suez Crisis. It was a crisis for Egypt, for us all, and for them. For them because the President of the United States at the time, Dwight Eisenhower, did not agree with it, and he was peeved because he was not consulted. And he feared that Gamal Abdel Nasser will close the Suez Canal, which means stopping the flow of crude oil from the Arabian Gulf to Europe and America. He hurried to the United Nations, to the Security Council, and they issued a resolution ordering the three invading powers, Britain, France, and Israel, to stop their aggression and withdraw immediately. That they did. Israel was occupying the Gaza Strip and part of the Sinai Desert, which it had to withdraw from. The situation did not stop there. Israel continued conspiring to arm itself by all means possible to destroy any emerging or would emerge Arab power. They went to France asking for nuclear power. I say power, what they wanted is nuclear arms. After 4 years of negotiations headed by Shimon Peres, the French Nuclear Atomic Energy Agency have agreed. That was a very difficult time for France because the government of France at that time was going a motion of no confidence in Parliament over the Algiers crisis. That same day, when the Prime Minister of France was engaged in lengthy discussions in Parliament all through the night over this motion of no confidence, Shimon Peres secured the signature of the Foreign Minister of France to grant them nuclear power. The next morning, he went to the office of the Prime Minister of France, who was then no longer the Prime Minister. He lost the motion of no confidence the night before. And he badgered him, a tired, exhausted, disappointed man. He just lost his government, and he badgered him into signing the agreement. That technically was illegal. But what to stop Israel? Shimon Peres, years later in his memoirs, described this incident as follows. What is the date between friends? What is the significance of the date? Of course, to the Israelis, deception is their modus operandi. If you know that the motto of Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service, is by way of deception, thou shall wage war, then you know why. They lie and they deceit, they bribe and they cajole and they pressure to get what they want. They got what they wanted, and they were given the reactor by France, which started the Dimona reactor in the Negev desert in Palestine. Of course, the reactor in Dimona was not used for civil purposes, as Peres pretended. Israel is now, according to many sources around the world, is a nuclear power. According to many an international publication, Israel has between 300 and 350 nuclear warheads, which makes it a nuclear power. Peres, of course, lied, and he said they wanted this reactor for civil purposes. Nothing of the sort. Israel now is a nuclear power, and this is a taboo. You cannot discuss it. The UN Atomic Energy cannot go and inspect it. Why? Because it's Israel. Israel is beyond international law and conventions. Why? Because their benefactor, the United States of America, made it so. They continue to prepare for war and aggression against Arab countries who were by then being armed by the Soviet Union. We all know about the Cold War. The Cold War was between the United States of America, i.e. the West, and the Soviet Union. And the Arab countries, especially Egypt and Syria, knowing that they will get no joy from the West, especially from America, Britain, and France, had to find somewhere to arm themselves. At the end of the day, Israel is next door, and it was armed to the teeth by America, France, Britain, Germany, and Italy, and many other illicit dealings. They were waiting for another opportunity to hit Egypt, because Egypt under Nasser emerged to be the Arabic power. And Egypt and Syria joined forces. That, again, was seen by Israel as a threat. In 1965, there was an Arab Summit conference in Rabat, Morocco. The then King of Morocco, King Hassan, allowed the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence services, to bug the hotel where the conference was taking place. They recorded and heard everything that was said, especially by President Nasser and by President Boumediene of Algeria. They knew that the Arabs were not prepared for war, and they were not planning any war against Israel soon. They were not ready. Yet, in June of 1967, Israel, with all its newly acquired power, attacked Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. Within 6 days, Israel destroyed the armies and the air forces of those 3 countries, and they finished occupying the Sinai Desert from Egypt, the Golan Heights from Syria, and the entire landmass of Palestine. Israel was now the only power between the river and the sea, occupying all of Palestine, resulting in yet another 350,000 new Palestinian refugees. That situation continues until now. That one government between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea in Palestine is Israel. It's a nuclear power, it's an apartheid state, and it's a colonial settler state. Next time, I shall talk about how Israel, not satisfied by occupying the entire landmass of Palestine, keeps grabbing swathes of land from their Palestinian owners, making them homeless and stateless. Thank you for listening. Bless you.